What's up, Rad Dads, and welcome back to another episode of the Rad Dads podcast. Tonight we have a Rad Dad on. We have Alan Carter. Alan is a devoted husband, hands-on father, and author of the book Letters from a Father. For years, Alan wrote monthly letters to his children during their teenage years. The letters cover an amazing array of life lessons and show an intimate glimpse of one family's life journey. All families have the same challenges and connection that make this book endearing and relevant to all who read it. There is a Christian faith and foundation throughout the book, with stories that are brought to life through Alan's letters. Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Sal, thank you so much for being with me tonight. This is great. Thank you.
I'm glad we finally were able to make this happen. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I guess like everyone who's listening, man, I'm just an impassioned dad. I think it's the most important job that we have in this life, and anything that I can do to be better at my job, that's what I'm going to go for. I will say that I think it's better that we act as a community. So the dad thing is the most important thing that I think I have. Husband is probably second. Job is a distant third to those two things. So that's a little bit about me, and that's what brought me here tonight.
So, Alan, how many children do you have, and what are their ages?
I got three, Sal, and it's hard for me to tell you that the oldest is now 27 years old, man. It seems like she was born yesterday. And then I've got a son who's 25. And as I mentioned to you earlier, that daughter lives in Hoboken, New Jersey with her husband. My son got married
Very cool.
About 6 months ago, and he lives with his wife in Salt Lake City. And then our youngest...
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. And our youngest just went off to college. She's a freshman in college, and we are suddenly empty nesters. So I feel like I've passed the goal line with the kid stuff, and I'm on to chapter 2.
Wow. So 3. So you got 2 girls and a boy.
Yep, that's right.
Very cool. I have 3 girls. Currently 9, 10, and 11. No, 10, 11, and 12. Sorry.
You're in the thick of it, aren't you, Sal?
Yeah, I guess the oldest is, kind of like on the verge of preteen. So
yeah, it's funny. I joke that you can actually chart the perceived intelligence of a father in the eyes of his children by their age. So, up until about age 11, dads are like the smartest thing on the planet. Then just about 11, your perceived intelligence starts to roll off. And then by the time the kids are 17, they look at you like it's impossible that you could tie your shoes. But the good news is now it comes back, because I'm here to tell you that the kids get to be like 22, 23. They start paying their bills, paying taxes, and living on their own, and they start calling you up thinking you're the smartest thing in the world again. So it does go full cycle. So just be aware of that, because you're entering on the front end of that curve.
That is good to know that they come back full circle, because I hear horror stories about parents with teenage kids that they don't want anything to do with their parents.
That's just part of life, right? That's interesting you mentioned that. That's kind of what drove this book that I wrote. Was these are letters from a father, but it's really 2 teenage kids, because that's a tough time to be a dad, isn't it? Is when the kids are teens. There's all kinds of stuff going on in their heads, and that for sure is the most challenging period, I think.
And now with social media and you get the internet right at your fingertips. It is a different world from when you and I grew up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it's crazy how different it is. I don't know that I could have done it right. It's crazy. Especially these kids with COVID too. As I mentioned to you, we just had our youngest just went off to college, and I'll tell you, man, she did basically her entire senior year remote, and that is super hard to do, man. It really, really is. So not only did they have the social media and those pressures, but they also had the whole COVID experience, and that was super hard on them. It really was.
Yeah, last year in high school, that's got to be tough. So what challenges have you faced raising your kids?
I don't think any more than the normal dad. For me, my faith is a big part of the parenting journey. So trying to, impact my kids with vision and values and faith, that's a challenge for any dad. We all want to impart life lessons to the kids, but man, the level engagement that you have sometimes, especially with teenagers, is tough. So I think more than anything, as I think about those challenges for every dad, I think it's important that we as dads get an A for effort, right? We got to try because I think the kids will
Sure.
respect our effort more than anything. So no matter how tough it feels, we've got to keep engaging, keep trying, keep reaching out, keep trying to bridge that gap of a generation and keep pushing. You asked me specifically about a challenge. We had like all families have minor things that happen to them. Our youngest, Emma, was in the gym doing some training, and a 45-pound barbell came crashing down on her head, fractured her skull, sent her to the
Oh,
hospital.
wow.
And I think no dad wants to ride in the back of an ambulance with his daughter going to the trauma center of an emergency room. So uh,
Wow.
that was a challenge, as you asked about. But I think the most important, she's fine now, Sal. I mean, it was a recovery period for her, and she's fine now. She's doing great. But man, the fact that we could go through that together, and the fact that I was just there for her, I think is representative of what dads need to think about. Man, we sometimes we don't have the answers all the time, but man, I think kids really recognize it when we're there for them during their challenges.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So ever since COVID, um, I've been working somewhat remotely for the most part.
Yep.
Whenever I'm needed on a project site, I go to the project site and I do what I have to do. But every night before we go to bed, my daughters ask me, Dad, will you be home in the morning? Dad, will you be home in the morning? So they like to say their goodbyes before they go to school. Or
Yeah.
sometimes they get to drive them to school if I'm not tied into any meetings.
Isn't that interesting? That's
So
that's just
yeah,
that's just they just want you there. They don't want you to have the answers. They just want your presence. And I think that's
yes,
huge.
which yeah, it is. It's an amazing feeling.
And back
It's
to the
it's great.
teenage thing, Sal, I think that continues when they're teenagers, even though they won't admit it. So, even though they act like they don't care that you're around or not, oh, they're watching. They are absolutely watching. And they want that engagement and they want you to be there, even if they're acting like they don't.
That's great. So what have you learned from raising your kids?
About everything in life, I think each experience teaches us something. And it's just how careful we are to learn that lesson and ingest it. Um, you know, Part of this book, as you saw, is just pulling from experiences that families have. And I'll just give you a few examples of it to answer your question. I remember one time we were doing a family ski trip vacation, and we were all together, and we flew to Denver. And when you get to Denver, you get on a rental car bus, and you're riding on this bus, and you're tired. You're carrying about 300 pounds of gear. You're spending your entire savings to do this, and our whole family noticed this beautiful little 2-year-old boy just so excited to be on the bus. I mean, it's like this kid never been on a bus before. He was staring at the windows. He was hanging from the straps. I've never seen a kid happier and more excited. And there's a lesson right there in terms of what we can learn from our kids, man. We just learn, right? Why don't we all embrace the day and our situations with that kind of joy? Sometimes we just get so caught up in the routines of life, with the pressures and responsibilities we have as families and dads and peers and all that stuff. But the reality is we're so blessed to be alive, and the experiences that God gives us are immense each and every day. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
learning together as a family, especially from our kids and what they're going through, man, there's so much joy and there's so much protein in that. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. It is very easy to get wrapped up in the daily doings or the shenanigans where people forget to just take a step back and embrace what is going on right then and there, and stop worrying about the next step, or just be there, be present at that moment.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And look, I get it, right? The pressures of the day, paying the bills, we got mortgages and all this stuff. The kids can, get under our skin, but we just can't focus on that. We've got to focus on the beauty of the moment for sure, and that presence.
Absolutely. What inspired you to write the book?
It's interesting, man. I had no idea this was going to be a book. I really didn't. So I think in my efforts with the kids, I just wanted to engage with them at a different level. You know, we all do the dinner table stuff, and we all try to hang out with our kids as much as possible. And I just wanted to supplement that normal engagement as a dad. So I started writing them monthly letters when they turned in their teenage years. And like I told you that story with the bus in Denver, I just pull on any experience that we shared together and then write about it, try to extract some values or thoughts from it. And I just sent him a letter on a monthly basis. And that happened for years. And one day my mother and father got a hold of a couple of these letters, and they called me. I never forget. They said, "Son, you gotta get these out, man. These are valuable. They might be helpful to other families and helping with their parenting journey." So I didn't think much of it. My dad actually went as far as getting them copyrighted and reached out to some literary
Wow.
agents and all this kind of stuff. So the next thing I know is Covenant Books is the publisher. We curated some of these letters, and it turned into this book called Letters from a Father. So I'm still a little surprised by it. It came out in May of 2021, so it's less than a year in it, and it's been fun to see the impact that it's had. It really has. It's been a delight to see it.
It is an amazing book. Some of the experiences that I've read in here that you've had are tremendous. So I want to touch on something you wrote in the beginning of the book. So you state in the book, uh, the best way to provide for your family is by giving them financial security. And then the next sentence is it? So how have you been able to balance your work, life, and parenting effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you that. So remember, I'm sort of at the tail end of my kid parenting journey, and you're right. That on my heart was that thought that I think it's an excuse, Sal. If we, because a lot of dads do this, because we have all these pressures. We say, look, the best thing I can do for my kids is just provide them with financial security. But I'm not so sure looking back, because what that does is it takes a lot of our time away from them. So I have a lot
Yep.
of regret, man. I have a lot of regret about the lack of time I spent with my kids, with the excuse being, hey, man, I got to go to the office or I got to work to pay the bills. And so I think you're right. We have to balance the responsibilities that we have to provide for our families with the more important time that our kids need from us. I mean, those are big,
Right.
big issues. And I will tell you, just from my own journey, I regret more the time I missed versus the money I made. Because at the end of the day, as you've heard of the guy, Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's Hamburgers, my favorite
Yep.
quote from Dave was, "There's no luggage racks on a hearse." So all this stuff we think we have to like build and save for, it is so far less important than the time that we have with our kids. It really is. So I guess long answer
I
to your
agree.
question, man, long answer. I just think don't use that as an excuse. Focus on the time with your kids. There will be more time once those kids go off and are living on their own to make up any financial shortfall.
100%. I agree. So, do you have any family traditions? And if so, which do you wish for your kids to carry on?
Yeah, I think more than anything, just back to the faith. I think the idea of sharing that faith together is hugely important for our family. So, whether it's praying together or going to church together, or those are big things for us. And I'm sort of really hope that that tradition carries on for our children. I just think that's important. Travel is another big thing for us. We love to be together in strange and different places. So I really hope that continues as well. I mentioned you our ski trips. We definitely did a lot of that, and it's probably my fault that my son is now probably skied. This is, as we're talking, this is February 7th. He's already been on the mountain 44 days this season on a snowboard.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my fault for sure. But that long answer again, is that traveling and faith piece is big for our family. And I hope both of those things continue. I really do.
That's amazing. So, do you guys have a list on all the places you want to hit as far
Oh,
as traveling?
oh yeah, man. We love
Nice.
Europe. That's a great place. We love getting warm on beaches. So the Caribbean islands, definitely on our hit list. Never been to Hawaii, and as a Chicagoan, this is the time of year you start thinking about warm beaches and sunshine because it ain't.
So Chicago's one of the places my wife wants to go visit. We did Colonial Williamsburg last year and Boston,
South
so
Chicago in the
which was
summer,
pretty cool.
beautiful. I mean, definitely don't come here now. I'll tell you that. But in the summertime, it is absolutely beautiful. It really, really is.
That's definitely on our to-do list. So here is the rapid fire question round. So favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon is probably Calvin and Hobbes. So it's been a long time since I've been that, but man, I used to love that one, and I still do. Far Side would probably be number two.
How about favorite movie?
Well, you
Spoke
know
about
that
this
one already.
already.
I love The
The
Matrix. All
Matrix.
three of them. That is a really, really good one. I'll take Keanu Reeves any day too.
Well, have you seen John Wick? Any of the John Wick
I
episodes?
love that too, man. I can't help it.
Oh,
I mean, what
yeah,
dad
it's
doesn't
great.
like John Wick? You know what I mean? Come on.
Great stuff. Great
I mean,
stuff.
it really is.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? I love me my Italian. So any type of pasta, sign me up right there. With a good red wine too. I'm down for that.
Favorite sport?
Believe it or not, this is an odd one. You've probably not gotten this. Squash is my favorite sport. So there you
Definitely
go.
have not gotten that.
That's
Yeah.
a new one for you guys for sure. So my
Yes.
daughter Emma, she plays squash for the University of Pennsylvania as a freshman. So that's my fault too. So yeah,
Very cool.
Love my squash.
Favorite sports team?
This is also would be a new one. I'm a Premier League soccer fan. Premier League, of course, is English football, and
Yep.
love the Southampton Saints. So there's two you've never heard before,
Well, I've gotten the Premier League soccer.
but not the Saints.
We are soccer, but not the Saints. No, correct.
All right, good.
My family, we are a soccer family. All three of my girls play travel soccer,
Nice.
and I am the head coach for my youngest daughter's travel soccer team.
That's a big commitment, Sal.
So
That is really a big commitment.
yeah,
Good for you to do that.
She-
Well, that's awesome.
she asked me 3 years ago, and they were looking for a coach, and I couldn't say no. And I'm glad I stepped up to do it because I'm having a lot of fun.
That's great, man. That really, really is. And you get that time with her, right?
Yes, especially that time, which is amazing.
That's great.
It stinks that I don't get to see my other girls play because our schedules don't line up because games are Sundays. But the very few times that I do, it's fun. Good time.
Yeah, that's really, really great.
Favorite dad moment?
There's about 70 of them in this book. I think so it's tough to pick one, but I will say there's a letter I wrote about just being with your kids while you make memories. I mean, sometimes it's not the experience, the specific experience. It's just that time when you're together and you look around and you savor that. That's what being a dad is all about. It's just that time when you feel that joy and that engagement. That's the best part of being a dad for me.
Favorite family vacation location?
Man, we've had some good ones. So I'm talking to you now from my house in the North Georgia mountains where it's absolutely beautiful. It's Appalachia, right? So there's hiking and there's big woods and there's mountains and there's nature. And I'd say that being out in these trails in this wilderness, give me that all day and I'd be happy.
That's what I'd love to get my wife to do that.
Seriously, push her into it. Don't let her say no. It's amazing.
Well, she loves the beach, so I love the outdoors. I love being in the woods.
Oh,
She loves the beach.
Get her out there.
She's going winter camping in 2 weeks with the kids.
All right, there you go. So you're
We're gonna be
I like it.
Yes. All right, so here's the very last rapid fire question: best dad joke.
So I wouldn't say it's a joke, but I follow a channel on Instagram called The Dad, which is just hilarious. And so there's an easy plug for The Dad. But there was one post last week. It said, parenting is the best job in the world. The hours are terrible. The salary is zero. And by the way, I've forgotten where I was going with all this because I'm exhausted. So it's kind of endless with that stuff.
Yeah.
We all feel that
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time, especially you with those young kids.
Absolutely. So, where can our listeners find your book?
Easiest way to do it, Sal, is just go to Amazon and then Google search on Amazon Letters from a Father and my name, which is Alan Carter, and love that. And by the way, I should mention too that 100% of all the proceeds from this go to charity. And this year they're going to Chicago Hope Academy, which is a high school on the south side of Chicago that serves really underprivileged kids. So yeah, that's you'd be doing some good if they picked up.
That's the academy. That's the academy where Bob.
Musicowski.
I don't want to. Yes, I didn't want to destroy his last name.
Yep, Bob Musicowski.
So Bob Musicowski's from the academy. Awesome,
yep,
fantastic.
Exactly right. So yeah, thank you for that.
What words of wisdom would you impart on our fellow dads?
I think I'd encourage them to start a letter writing program of their own. It's been so impactful to our family. So I'd say, think about, hey, what could you do to enhance the conversations that you're already having with your kids and enhance the engagement that you're having with them already? That'd be the first thing. Second would be maybe to think outside of the box. And third would be just pour that time all over them. Don't neglect that time you've got now, because once they go off to college, the time you'll have with them gets really limited really quickly.
In my 20s, I realized that in high school, there's that constant, I don't want to say headbutting with your parents, but leave me alone. Let me do my own thing. I'm in high school. I got my own friends. I want to be with my friends. Yeah, I realized that when I was in my 20s, and it was like, wow, there's that very short period of time where you get to spend the time with your family, with your mom and dad. And now that I'm older and my parents are getting older, it's like, wow, I don't want to say I wasted my high school years not spending time with them, or my college years, but it kind of feels that way.
And I'm reflecting on that now because I lost both my parents in 2020. So that was really hard.
My condolences.
My wife just lost her mom 3 months ago, so we're really thinking about that. And yeah, it's sobering to hear what you just said and to recognize that, man, our time with our family is super limited, and you will never, between the time you have now with your kids and by the time they go off to college or off to start their own life at age 18, man, you'll never have that much time with them again, because then they're going to get on their own life track and they're going to get on their own life treadmills. So anything we can do as dads to sort of hold on to that, to embrace that, to squeeze every last drop out of that is time well spent.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, Alan, I thank you very much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. To all our listeners, please head over to Amazon, look up Letters from a Father. It's a wonderful book. Some inspiring messages in there. I love the message about adversity, about all the obstacles that they got to overcome. But just amazing book. Please head on over to Amazon, look up Letters from a Father or Alan Carter. All the money that is raised goes to the Hope Academy in Chicago. Yeah. But Alan, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much. Blessings to you guys.
As you as well. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned next week for another episode of the Rad Dads Podcast.